The Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate seat in Texas is intensifying. After months of speculation, State Representative James Talarico of Austin entered the race. Talarico joins former Dallas Congressman Colin Allred and retired NASA astronaut Terry Virts. He says billionaires have too much power and influence on politics and policy, and he accuses them of dividing the country. We spoke with Talarico hours after he announced his campaign on Tuesday.
Well, I just firmly believe that all 30 million Texans deserve a U.S. Senator who's going to represent their interests, not the interests of billionaire megadonors. And right now, on the other side of the aisle, we've got Ken Paxton and John Cornyn competing to be the next U.S. Senator from Texas, both of whom have proven to be deeply corrupt and willing to sell out Texans to enrich their own donors.
What are the biggest problems you believe are facing the country, and what are your solutions?
Yeah, so in that big ugly bill, they gutted our health care, they defunded schools, and they did all of that to cut taxes for their donors. So when you're doing the people's business instead of your donors' business, you fight for things like I've fought for at the state capitol, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. I passed the first ever cap on insulin copays in the state of Texas. I passed a major bill to bring down the costs of childcare across Texas. And most recently, I passed a bill that's going to get rid of some of the outdated regulations so that we can bring down housing costs in our state. So if you have elected officials who are fighting for the people and not their donors, you end up getting good public policy that's going to lower costs, grow the economy, and allow people to fulfill their God-given potential.
With regards to billionaires, who are you talking about specifically? And does that include George Soros? Because Republicans often throw out his name, often criticize him. And Soros is working with the Texas Democratic Party to help them raise money. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have denounced billionaire influence in both political parties. I am out here calling out billionaire megadonors regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, because they have way too much influence in our politics. Not that they don't deserve a seat at the table. I do think billionaires deserve a seat, but they don't deserve every seat. And right now they own all the seats at the table. And there's not enough room for regular Texans, for teachers and nurses and firefighters and police officers and workers to have a seat at the table too.
And let me ask you, as far as fundraising is concerned, so you're not going to accept any money from super PACs, from billionaires? How is that going to work?
So right now, I'm the only member of the Texas legislature that has never accepted a dime of corporate PAC money. And that's not easy to do. I've had to send back checks from Walmart and from Chevron and AT&T. I still talk to those business leaders. Like I said, they deserve a seat at the table, but I've put a self-imposed ban on accepting their contributions just to make sure there's a limit on their influence and on their power in my legislative office. I'm going to be continuing that policy for the Senate campaign. So I won't be accepting any corporate PAC money in this race, but that means that I'm going to rely on the people to fund this campaign.
Talarico announced he raised $1 million during the first 12 hours of his campaign. Former Dallas Congressman Colin Allred entered the race July 1st, and he's been campaigning across the state ever since. He recently unveiled a main platform to take corruption out of politics, and we asked him about it on Thursday.
The commitments that I've made to folks, which is that I've never taken a dime of corporate PAC money, and I won't, that I never traded stocks and believe that we should ban every member of Congress from trading stocks. In my opinion, they have insider information, and it's outrageous that they do. You should know why someone is doing what they're doing and whose interest they're doing it in. And when you're trading stocks at the same time, I don't think that's possible. But I also think we have to look at some of the things that are broken in the Congress that have led it to be, I think, really the least productive and least responsive to the American people that we've seen in modern history, including gerrymandering. We've seen that here in Texas with this stealing, really, of seats here, just blatantly saying, we're just going to do it. You can't stop us. Well, it's possible for us to ban that, and I want to do that. I want to see every state have nonpartisan commissions that draw the districts in every state. Let's get away from this idea of politicians picking their voters. Let's go back to what everybody knows we should do, which is voters picking who represents them.
So that's a congressional law that
We
Congress
can
has
do that.
to
We can
pass.
pass that as a law in Congress applying to congressional districts. I also think
To congressional districts,
Right.
not to state.
Yeah, and listen, there's some constitutional debate around that,
Yeah.
and I think that every state should adopt that policy as well. But I know that we're on very firm footing with the Congress. And I also think that the Senate is broken, and that we've seen the filibuster become something that was, for most of our history, used rarely and sparingly, to be something that's applied in every single case. And I think that's actually reduced bipartisan cooperation, because everything's going to be subject to the filibuster. And so those are two steps that I think we have to do to fix the Congress. But when it comes to ethics, I think we have to look at this as a period where we, on the backside of this, we have to pass an entire raft of ethics laws, and that's what I include in the package as well.
So how does unrigging the economy in your plan actually lead to lowering costs for people?
When I think about lowering costs, I think about the areas where I know that we can help working people. To me, that's housing, that's child care and elder care, that's health care, that's the cost of education. These are all areas where I know we can have concrete steps, and I have concrete plans for what we can do to lower folks' costs and to give them a chance to get ahead. Right? But what we see often is that special interests will swoop in, that the corruption of our current system that I think allows for them to basically purchase votes in the Congress to influence it. And so in order to fully address and to fully unrig what I consider to be a rigged economy, we also at the same time unrig our democracy. And so I think they go hand in hand. And to me, it's all about putting power back in the hands of the people and having a more responsive government, one that is their top interest is what's in your interest, not in their own pocketbook, not in some special interest pocketbook. That's where we are right now, and I've had enough of it.
Former El Paso Congressman Beto O'Rourke and current Congressman Joaquin Castro of San Antonio are still considering a run for Senate.